Hi everyone, James here from F9 Audio and the Freemasons, and today I'm very proud to finally present to you F9 TRAX Electric Disco for both Ableton and Logic. This release is currently available for Ableton 9.1 onwards and Logic 9.1.8 and all versions of Logic Pro X. There's also a more traditional loop-based WAV pack available at a slightly lower cost. But as always with TRAX, the beauty is in the DAW pages. So let me just press play on this first project. So this is the TRAX system, an incredibly powerful way for us to deliver content. Not only royalty-free parts, but having them set up as MIDI and sampler-based instruments so that you can completely customize them or use just the patches for your own projects. Now let's just quickly go through some of the sounds. We've got everything from multi-sampled analog, to some great new disco live basses, there's a very efficient stereo acoustic piano patch set up perfectly for disco. A perfectly on-point Jupiter 8 funk bass. And across the pack, we've got 3 guitar menus that have funk guitar chops in a specific key split up across the keyboard. And obviously disco is about the drums as it is about the instruments, and we've got a whole series of drum menus built for this pack laid out across the keyboard. Here's the live claps. Now, here's a quick bit of disco history. You're not always hearing just clap sounds on disco records. People were using anything around the studio almost as Foley items to make bigger sounding claps. I believe Michael Jackson had this enormous wooden contraption on some of his records. Now, we've echoed a little bit of that here, and we've used some of the packing materials, the inflated packing materials that come out of the Amazon boxes, and been popping that in a reverberant room. Give it a try. So we've tried to be as musical as possible on this release and give you as many different sections to break down, tear to pieces, use whatever you want. And let me just give you a couple more examples just by playing back another few parts of this release. So now I'm sure you're starting to gather the power of this system. You've got audio parts, MIDI parts, multi-sampled instruments, sampler patches, drum menus, all playing back in perfect harmony, completely controllable and completely customizable. Not a single third-party plugin has been used, and we're really proud of how we've got these to sound. We've also supplied a whole series of session notes available as PDFs, but also built into the arrange pages here on Live's lessons and in Logic's notes. These will go through the mixing of the projects and some of the musicality and offer quite an insight into how we've put them together. Okay, let's go into Logic now and let me show you one of the other projects. Now, I can't tell you how many people have asked if we'll put something like this together. And here it is. The Minneapolis page of Electric Disco delivers that era's sound absolutely perfectly inside your DAW. The drums are built out of audio. They've all been processed through the external hardware within the studio, and they are perfectly on point. And now just a word on the musicality of the pack. We studied hard all of the different chord structures that we used within classic disco, roots disco, some of the new disco styles, and particularly with this one, what was going on in Minneapolis with the wonderful playing of guys like Jam and Lewis and the kind of gospel influences that were sneaking in. And it is all there for the taking. It's all available in MIDI. Come and learn how these guys were pulling one chord that would take the whole thing out of key just for one bar, but make it sound so musically perfect. Now, for me, if this production's about anything, it's the fat ass bass. There's a nice bit of round robin going on within the actual ESX24 patch. You can see I've got quite a selection of plugins on it. The auto filter has actually been used to run some drive as well, which really gives an extra bit of bite. Because don't forget, even though Moogs are fantastic as they come out of the box, you do have to do still quite a bit of work to get them to fitting in a modern production. Now, I've also got a blank ESX24 patch that has been transposed down at 24 tones, so 2 octaves, and it's just running a sine wave. And that'll add some great sub-weight to the patch. If you ever try this, don't forget to replicate your pitch bend controls and any modulation controls you might have within the patch so that they are the same. Okay, so we got some multi-sampled Prophet 6 patches here. And the big old chords. And once again, as I say, this is all running in MIDI, so if you want to see how I've actually voiced all this stuff, there it is, no holds barred. Use as much as you want. But I do want to quickly take you over to the middle 8 of this actual production. Now, one sound that was just absolutely synonymous with this style of music was the Rhodes that comes out of the DX and TX range. So really glad to have that within the pack. And on the DX tip, here's a nice plucked patch. Now, before we go off and visit one of the other projects, let me just solo the drum track for you. Now, I'm sure you'll agree that's quite hard hitting, but it's doing so without any latency whatsoever. We're really proud that we've set all these projects up without any plugins that generate latency like the AD limiter. And most importantly, there's not a single third-party plugin used throughout the entire pack. So as long as you're within the specs, which are, I think, Logic 9.1.4 onwards, or any version of Logic Pro X, these pages will just come up and open and work for you. Now, just quickly, let's not forget one important thing. All of the patches and menus that you're hearing that build these projects are available for installation inside your DAW, and that will make them available in any of your other projects. In Ableton, we're using the Live Rack system, and in Logic, we're using ESX24 patches combined with channel strip instrument settings. So this is the Zadar page now back in Ableton, and this one's really built heavily out of the drum menus. Here's some of the kicks. You can see 2 snare parts working away here to create a composite. We've got an 80s snare. And another more live snare underneath it. Got a whole selection of claps built out of noise. Our famous Trinity Lin kit is doing some work. And plenty of hand percussion. And wherever possible, we've also used live hi-hats recorded here as well. Now that's actually an audio loop that's been processed by some of the studio's hardware, but there is also a menu of the live hi-hats. Talking of menus, you've heard the guitars in this track. They are built out of one of the fabulous guitar menu patches. So now let me show you just how customizable these projects are. We're going to nip down here, leave all the drums where they are, go down to the music. Let's just get rid of the lessons so we can see a bit better. And I'm just going to delete all of the actual parts in this part of the track. Playback. I've got a great drum track to actually just start adding new parts to. Let's add a new bass line in. Now, of course, that one may not actually be strictly new. Okay, this is the Philly page, and it's one of my favourites. It's got some utterly incredible wah playing from Robin Bolt, one of our co-conspirators. We've got a pack coming with Robin with a whole series of funk and disco guitars later on. Do watch out for that. It's an absolute stunner. But here he's really added some beautiful flavours to this particular piece. But it's one of the most musical here. It actually starts, even though, as you can hear, that is minor key back there. This whole piece actually starts major. Now, why does that work? How can we go from that straight into this? Well, for me, that's always been one of the beauties of disco, the ability to actually break the rules. The major and minor keys can actually, in certain circumstances, be completely interchangeable, as we've just shown you there. And disco was always great at this. To me, it's always been club music's almost classical music in the fact that it resolves. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to the end of one section, it often goes back to a place that feels completely natural musically and completely reliant almost on musical theory. And if you ever wondered about all this kind of stuff, all of the MIDI is here. All of these chord structures are here for you to actually digest and learn from. So that's it, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed this short walkthrough of the Logic edition of F9 TRAX Electric Disco. We're immensely proud of this release, as we think it not only brings a great deal of content to the table, but also a great deal of knowledge about how these songs are actually, or how these styles were actually put together musically. We hope you managed to create something stunning with this sample pack, and as always, if you do, please let us know. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.